All right, how you doing? This is D Ross, and I just want to say thank you for coming to the No More Crumbs series of Four Thieves of Personal Wealth. I am your host and instructor. I am also the author and speaker and trainer of the book No More Crumbs from the Table, and that could be found at Amazon.com. And at the end of this whole presentation, you'll actually be able to receive some download information on exactly where you can find the book on Amazon as well as a few other extra bonuses. So I'm hoping that everything goes well for you. And you've come here because you heard about the four thieves of personal wealth. You heard about the idea that you don't have to settle for anything, the crumbs from the table. You can actually go after what it is you're really made to do. I call your tag, your talent, your ability, and your gift. And I'll talk more about that toward the end of the presentation. But I want to say thank you in this video and in this course, you'll be given some practical information that you can use so that you can enjoy a better financial future. Again, if you're a young person, this is going to be very valuable to you because you're going to get a jump start on most of the people that you know. If you're over 50 and you're closer to 70, you can still get started. You want to start exactly where you are. So let's talk a little bit about these four thieves. Now, for these of personal wealth, there are four particular areas that everyone needs to understand. And that one place that most people really fail is in understanding how their money is taken from them. Yeah, I'm going to say the word taken because a lot of times people don't even understand that it's taken from them. And if you've seen the commercial, you probably saw Get Your Money Back, America. It was an H&R Block commercial, especially during the Super Bowl season. And right after the Super Bowl, they tell you, get your wealth back because they know that most people have given the IRS more than what they should have. And some people, they are really using it as a forced savings because they see themselves not being able to save, but they look forward to this huge check that they say they're going to get back from the IRS, when the reality is that's your money. So if you're in a position where you're actually struggling or you're paycheck to paycheck, which is a lot of people, and you'll see that in the presentation, well, perhaps maybe you should get some of that money up front. Now, like I said earlier, I'm going to be covering a wealth of information. And as you see here on this slide, you're going to also see that we're going to talk about the four ways that people produce income. And you'll see that wealth is created when people get involved with more than one quadrant. And you'll see the highest amount of wealth is in business ownership and self-employment. Now, again, 95% of the wealth of America is held in business ownership. They own a system that works. Because see, there's an adage that says systems work when people don't, and you'll see exactly how that plays out as we go along. So let's take a look at taxation. All right. As an employee, you fill out a W-2, a W-4, and you submit that information, and it tells you how much the IRS needs to take from you. And this is based on your basic income. Now we say take because as an employee, that money is taken right off the top. You don't have any choice in the matter. You can't make any major adjustments. I mean, you only have a few opportunities to ever do anything with that. And so we want to make sure that you understand that. So, when you work and all you have is a job, JOB, some people use that acronym for just over broke. But I look at it like this. It's your seed money. And we'll talk about why I think it's seed versus anything else. In the other quadrant, you're going to see self-employed. Some people own a job. They have a job as an employee, or they start up a business that owns them. And this is very difficult for some people to realize because they know they enjoy doing whatever it is that they do and they love it. but everything is based on their customer. So if they don't show up, they don't eat. If they don't show up, they don't make any money. And that's a very difficult place, but at the same time, they usually have a higher income because they can control when they, want more customers. They can control when they want to make more money, and they can actually control their time. So some people, they only get involved with self-employment because they really just want to control their time. They're not looking for somebody else telling them what time to get up, what time to be at work, how long to work, and things like that. And in some cases, self-employed people work 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. They put their whole health, heart, everything into that job because they want to be successful. And so they work their business to a certain point. Now, what some people do is they start off as a self-employed individual, but then they know that their goal is to turn it into something that works while they're sleeping, right? So at first, you might be on the grind. You really like going out there. You're getting your customers. You're building your customer base. You're exploring. You're doing a lot of different things. And then all of a sudden, you get to a place where your business is working for you. And now you can kind of sit back a little bit and let the business create money. So you have your business ownership system. And right now, I can say that I've met a number of different people and they have actual business systems working for them. And they feel very confident because they know that, all right, if they don't show up tomorrow, they still have an income. Or in some cases, they can take off for weeks and travel and go see their children and, go help with their grandkids or, in some cases, just enjoy life, so to speak, for days and days and weeks. Take a Mediterranean cruise for 2 weeks and come back and there's a paycheck somewhere. There's a check in the mail because they've already put the groundwork in and they've built a system. And then, of course, the last other quadrant there you see is the I quadrant, investments. So you own investments, and those investments actually give you a percentage on return, or ROI, return on investment. And 5% of the population actually do this. So that means there's 95% of the population out there not investing. And this is very interesting because we're not taught this in high school. We're not taught this, how to really maximize this. We're taught mainly how to maximize being an employee. They tell you to get a good job. First you got to get a good education, and then you can go get a good job, and then you work for however many years. Well, I can tell you when you hit 50, you look back and you go, man, what happened to my days? And then you look at, okay, what's my net worth? And some people look at their home and they say, oh, that's my net worth. Or they look at their cars and that's their net worth. But then when you look around, you're thinking, okay, is it all paid off? And am I really free? And unfortunately, because of the way society is sometimes, it's very difficult because people are not free and they find themselves having a lot of challenges. So anyway, this is something to consider under taxation. And then again, the other three, there's three more very interesting thieves. We're going to talk about that thief called inflation. You know, I don't know about you, but where I grew up in New York, Long Island, Amityville. Hey, what's up, DeVille? How y'all doing? Um, Inflation. The house that I grew up in on 26 Bentley Road in Amityville, New York, was $29,000. $29,000 back in the 80s when I was growing up, because I just had a situation where I was able to see how much that house was. And my uncle actually worked as a computer specialist for the FAA, so he had a pretty good job, right? And we lived out there in Long Island, and this is after foster care, when my aunt actually got us out of foster care and said, she's going to go ahead and support us, and we'll talk about that another time. So anyway, that same house today went on the market and it's over $300,000. The same exact house. The bricks didn't change. The grass is the same. The rooms are the same. They may have done some improvements like fix the basement, put in some new windows, but the reality is inflation has now made it that anybody trying to walk in and buy that house today is going to spend over $300,000. And if you think about it, look at bread, eggs, milk, these commodities, these things that you need every single day. The price of those things are phenomenal. I mean, just a nice pair of shoes, you could used to go to the store, spend maybe $8 to $10. Now those same shoes are 15, 20, and up to over $100. So it's very different now. Inflation. And they're also going to talk about deflation a little bit, but we're going to stick to what happens to you and your money, which inflation. Because if you think about it, you go out with $100 to have a real good evening. Well, you go sit down in a nice restaurant, and what happens? When you walk away from that table for two, and I'm not even talking about the kids, unless you find a place that says kids are free, and they only get you the first two kids are free. If you got three kids, you still have to pay, right? But let's say you do, you find this place. Well, when you find this place, guess what you're doing? You're in a situation where you're definitely going to have to think about walking away, spending about $35 to $50 easy. And that's just a basic restaurant. You go into any kind of restaurant that has any kind of high, value, 4 or 5 star. Before you sat down, you're going to spend $100 easy walking away. Okay? So you have to understand that. And then we're going to talk about corporations and corporate greed and how the corporations have set us up as consumers for certain things. And it's not that corporate, having a corporation is bad. It's just that there are some people who have really made it difficult through corporation, through greed. They've just inflated the prices of certain things so high. I mean, I was just recently watching an episode of TV where there was a gentleman who had to put his wife in the hospital, and he talked about how the fact that inside the hospital, even though he had good insurance, he had to pay for all these little incidentals like the napkins that they were using for breakfast, or the tissue paper they were using to blow their nose, and then an aspirin was more than what you would pay in a regular store. So you think about corporations and corporate people who sit around a table and make decisions on prices and housing and all kind of things that people use every single day, and you wonder, how do they live with themselves charging these exorbitant fees for stuff? But it's because they have shareholders who have stock, and they have told them, if you give me your money by buying our stock, we're going to guarantee you some type of increase or return on investment. They're going to work towards that. And that's what they do. They do everything in their power to make sure that happens. And of course, you've heard about certain other people who out there who are very corporate minded, and all they want to do is corner the market. And then you have some of the people like the Madoffs and things where they just, didn't care about the people. All they cared about was money. That's where corporate greed and corporate takeovers and corporations kind of looks ugly. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is something that really gripped me for a long time. And I've worked my way, and I'm still working my way through it, but debt. We are a consumer society. We're taught to spend. We're not taught to save. We're taught to go get that next good thing, that next cool item, that iPhone 9, or that really beautiful purse that costs, as much as your car. So those things are happening, and we have to understand what's going on behind the scenes when it comes to the dollar. Because see, the $1 that we had 20 years ago doesn't buy half of what it used to buy. So therefore, we think we're doing well, but we're really not. And then, of course, the way the banking system is set up, those interest fees and things of that nature are just gripping. And I'm also going to talk about how I actually owed the IRS over $50,000 and what it took for me to get to the point where I actually was able to pay them off and not have to worry about them going into my bank account. Because the worst thing you could ever have is when you think you have money after payday and you go to your bank and you find out that your account has been frozen. See, that happened to me. And when it did, it really, really hurt because I was expecting to pay my rent. And now I couldn't do anything. That money was just taken from me. I couldn't get it back. It was a real terrible day. So we're going to talk about consumerism. You know, we have holidays every single month of something, some kind of sales, so that people can get the money out of your hand and get it into their pocket. You know, you think about some commercials or you see there's like, hey, only for $29.95, and don't wait. If you act now, you get this, you get that. And there's some people who do that every single day. They're buying something and they have a bunch of stuff. And people have been taught that buying stuff makes them happy. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what to do about it. Okay? Now, taxation. First of all, it's automatic. If you work a W-2, you're a W-2, 4 W-2 employee, and you fill that paperwork out, taxes are taken from you automatically. And you pay a percentage based on the gross. You know, they say, okay, if you make this much, this is how much you're going to pay. And see, as a person working a regular job or two jobs, doesn't matter how much you make, you got a percentage and they're going to take it. And right now, this is really cool. So write this down. People say if somebody was to come to you and say, hey, you know what, you made $1,000 today, so just give me 300 of it right now, or 350 of it right now. You probably look at them and go, are you crazy? I'm not giving you that much of my money. But that's essentially what happens. They say, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to take it all right now. I'm only going to take a certain percentage of it every single month. And then at the end of the year, if you haven't paid me enough, then you have what they call break even day, debt freedom day. That's on April 15th, where you don't owe me anything if you've paid enough. But if you do, you better pay me by midnight that day. Because if you don't, I'm going to penalize you and I'm going to charge you interest. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to just charge you regular interest. I'm going to charge you compound interest. All right. So it doesn't matter how much you make, you fall in line with the same principles. And then the penalties when you don't pay on time are just phenomenal, to the point that if you look at it and then you get caught in it, you will feel like there's nothing you can do. And anything that you have, you know it's going to be taken. So it's just craziness of what happens in this whole taxation realm. And, it was supposed to be a temporary thing, actually, in the United States. It wasn't supposed to go on and on and on. But of course, wealthy people who saw, hey, we can make money with this. And then the government was saying, hey, you got to rub the government, don't you? So you got to pay us this much money. Well, actually, that's a whole different situation. And I have a video that you're going to see. It's actually a cartoon, and it talks about the American dream. And when you watch this cartoon, it actually educates you on exactly what's going on behind the scenes. And it tells you exactly what happens with your money and even how the money even came into bear and how all these different systems play against us if we don't understand them. And remember, systems work when you don't. And see, it's easy to put systems in place. And once systems in place, they do what systems do. All right. Most Americans also pay standard deductions. They get standard deductions when they're doing their taxes. They don't really take their time to look at what they actually spent and where they spent it and how they spent it. And they get into a situation like I did where, I just was thinking, hey, I'll take my deduction, I'll do this and everything will be great. And I wind up owing so much money. And that became because of the fees. It's not like I owed a lot at first, but over time it just started accumulating and accumulating, and then I lost my job and I was unemployed, and I was sitting there trying to figure out, now what am I going to do? And then I gave up on it, and I kind of thought one day it'd just disappear. But I'll tell you right now, it won't disappear. And as soon as you get a job or a better job, somebody's going to knock on your door and say, okay, give us the money. And that's exactly what happened. All right. And then, as I said earlier, most people pay more than they should. I was paying more than I should, but then also I was claiming too much because I didn't have my paperwork right. So you're going to be introduced to Sandy Botkin. Sandy Botkin wrote a number of books, but he's also taught people how to reduce their taxes big time, how to only pay what you owe, and how to maximize your deductions. Just think about it like this. He talks about how if you got in your car right now today and you decided you're going to drive off to go to work, well, when you come back, those miles don't cost for nothing. They're like, okay, just lost mileage. But if you're a business owner and you do that same amount of driving, and let's say it's just 10 miles round trip, well, they pay you 0.55 cent per mile. So now you're able to actually recoup a certain amount of mileage for just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth as a person who owns. And we'll talk about that as we move forward. So there'll be some quizzes and some other information available for you. I hope you take your time and participate in that. So here is a really cool question for you. And this question is a difficult question because sometimes you just need money in your hand. So I don't have a problem with people taking a second job. What I do have a problem with, though, is that people taking a second job and not actually asking themselves, is this the best option for them? And so, you could go ahead and get a second job, or you can start a business. And, you know, you got to realize that there's two tax systems in play. You know, one for the wealthy. No, it's not one for the wealthy and one for the poor. It's actually one for those that are enterprising, starting up businesses and running businesses, and those that are employed. Those are the two systems out there. It was a big old thing about Warren Buffett. You guys know Warren Buffett is the richest man in the world right now. And it goes between him, Bill Gates, and Carlos Slim. But right now, today, as I'm doing this presentation, Warren Buffett is number 2, Bill Gates is number 1, Carlos Slim is number 3. Okay? And so Warren Buffett, he paid only 3% taxes. Out of all the billions of dollars that he made, he only paid 3%. Now people say, well, that's terrible. How could he do that? His secretary paid more. Well, she was employed and she paid over 30 something percent. And he's a business owner and he had enough deductions that all he had to pay was 3%. That's just the nature of how it works. It's not the bad, terrible corporation that's taking your situation. It's you not participating in the way capitalism works. This is a capitalistic society. Therefore, there are certain things that are in play all the time. Okay, so here's another thing. Paid employees who pay more in taxes. Okay, most people pay more than what they should. And they don't understand what's happening because they think that, hey, you know what? I'm going to get this big old check on after the 15th. Or matter of fact, now you could actually get your check this month, January, even though you don't even pay your bill or send in your information until the 15th of April. So employees, think that that's the best way to do it. And for some, it's a strategy that they've been using, but they just don't understand that there's other strategies that are much, much clearer and better for them than that particular strategy. All right. Employees have limited deductions. Again, if you're an employee, you might have 100 and something deductions that you can take, or 40 something, right? But as a business owner, there's countless little places that people can actually, find a deduction. There's a guy who, he's a millionaire, and, he was looking at, okay, how can I save more on my taxes? And he was actually able to take his car that he had and he traded it up for a beautiful, huge, uh, really expensive car, a couple $100,000 for this car. Well, when his tax consultant looked at all of his stuff, he said, the car that you're driving right now is cool, but if you was to get this more expensive car and you put a sign on it for your business and you use it as an advertising vehicle, do you realize that you can write off more than you would if you kept your regular car? So he made that choice and made that decision, and it just changed everything. And if you want more information about that, just let me know and I'll send you the video and you actually can check it out. And it's possibly that might come on the list of what I call, bonuses, right? So a lot of times people ask the question, well, Dwayne, if I'm going to start something, I don't even have any money. And I say, well, you actually do, especially if you're working, and I can show you exactly where you get the money from. And then after I show you to you, I'll show you how to get back every dime you spent, because now it's an expense of doing business. Okay? Because the IRS has specific rules on what you can and cannot do. And we're going to take advantage of that in this program as we move forward. So I really want you to pay attention to what we're talking about should you get a second job, because I'm going to share a video by Sandy Botkin that actually shows the numbers, because there's a specialty of helping people, and he came across a young lady who said, you know what, if I was to get the second job, this is how much it will be at the bottom line. And then he said, what if you get a business? Here's how much you can make at the bottom line, and this is how much taxes you'll pay. And it was just phenomenally different. All right, because see, businesses different than taxes. As I said, they're taken right from you from the beginning. You don't get to choose it. Even people who are, saying, well, I want to give to charity. Well, that's cool. If you're, you know, giving at a church or something, guess what? You give after that, because the IRS took theirs first. Then you get to give. And wouldn't it be cool if you can just flip that around and you give the way you want to and then you pay your taxes? So that's what business allows you to do. You pay for your business needs first and all your business expenses. Does a CEO need a home? Yes, they do. Do they need a car? Sure, they do. Do they need clothes? You bet they do. Do they need insurance? Sure, they do. How about savings for college? Yeah. How about putting kids to work who are in your household and getting a deduction for that? There's so many different things that people just don't know how to do. And here's the thing, 70% of all U.S. businesses are small businesses. And that's growing because people are moving back to the cottage industry. That's what we had before the industrial age. We had people that, if you're a blacksmith, you did that. If you're working on a farm, you did that. If you put up fences, and that's what you did. You traded, you know. Well, now people are going back to small business because they see that that's the engine that can level the playing field because of how the money works. Now, if for some reason somebody told me, well, Dwayne, the dollar's going to crash and there'll be no money, well, then it won't matter. But until that happens, you still got to pay your lights, your gas, your water, send your kids to a nice, cool, do all those little cool things, buy some cool shoes, maybe go on a date here and there, date night. So guess what? You're going to have to use something to trade with. And currently, that's dollar bills. And yeah, they say, well, it's not really backed by anything because they just made more money and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to get really into the deepness of that because this is the system that we're in. And so, yes, you will be educated on that. And again, I have a really cool video that is embedded here for you to take a look at. It's called The American Dream, because most people already understand that the American dream has become an American nightmare for some people. But that's why I'm doing this presentation, because I want people to not have that problem. And because I'm a trainer and a teacher, I'm taking some of the content that I do in front of groups and I'm putting it online and letting people participate. And it's a way for me to make money. And speaking of that, if you was to share this video with other people and they purchase my product, guess what? Now you become an affiliate. You become an affiliate salesperson just by sending out this to 10, 15 people that you know. And if they pay for the course, or once they pay for the course, guess what? I will send you a percentage of the cut. Inbox me, send me an email, maybe even make a post on Facebook. I don't know, but let me know that that's your interest, and we'll talk about it. And I have a really cool deal set up for you. For some people, depending on how much they participate with me, I have a situation where you can make 40% of the sale. I keep 60, you make 40. So let's say it's $1,000 coaching session. $1,000 coaching session. When I secure that coaching session because of you, and you don't even have to have a session with me, you just have to help me get the word out. But let's say you do, and I do a 3-week course with somebody, because I offer a 3-week coaching session with them where they pay $1,000. All right. Well, actually, it's $999.95. But let's round it up to 1,000. So what will happen is you now become a partner with me. And so when I make that sale, I keep 600, you get 3, excuse me. So therefore we split a percentage. All right. So you get almost 4, you get 3 something. And I keep my percentage as well. So ask me about how you can make money sharing this course as an affiliate. And because being in business means that all you're doing is you have an honest expectation of a profit. You are trying to make money. You are engaged in exchanging something for a paycheck, whether it's a contract payment, it's some kind of tangible way for you to go from one person back to the next person, and you're making money. You're open for business. All right. And if you said to yourself, well, I don't know what business I can start, I don't know what I can do. Well, start as an affiliate. And all you're doing is just educating people to connect with me. If you have Facebook, you're putting information out. If you have Twitter, you're tweeting. If you have email, you're sending out emails. If you have a flyer, you're giving out flyers. If you have a church, you're telling people at the church to invite me to come speak to the whole church. And I'll do a live presentation. And live seminars, no matter how big it is or how small, it's a percentage. So we get 3 people in the room for a live seminar, you get a percentage of that. If we get 3,000 people in the room, you get a percentage of that. So how is that for an opportunity? All right. So don't sell yourself short. You know people that I don't know. And the whole purpose of that as an affiliate is that you get those people in front of me. They learn a little bit. Their life changes. We both make money and we continue to move forward, changing lives. All right. Because it should be a way for us both to win. Not just me, not just you, but it's a win-win proposition. All right. So anyway, I'm going to continue. So right here, this is based on an individual getting $40,000 a year. Let's take a look at what happens when this family takes the time to make $40,000 a year. All right. Because it really, really makes a difference. Well, for some reason, it's not playing like it should. Let me see if I can get it to go.